Speak on the show, episode 37 in the year 2021. Saturday morning, y'all. 10 a.m. Eastern, 7 a.m. Pacific. Y'all ready? Let's go. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Welcome to Speak On It. I'm your boy, R.W. Coolins. First and foremost, giving honor to God who allows me to come at you in this manner on a weekly basis. How's everybody doing out there? Hope you had a wonderful, uneventful, as far as no drama or anything, Thanksgiving. Hopefully everybody had enough turkey, stuffing, dressing, whichever one you can call it, sweet potato jams, all that over this weekend. Hope you got to spend time with family. You know, we're coming out of this. Well, we're not coming out of it, but in this pandemic over the last probably about 2 years, year and a half, 2 years, we haven't really been able to commingle, as they say, for Thanksgiving. So hopefully everybody was able to get out, travel. I know the roads were busy, the airports were busy. Everybody was able to hopefully they got home safely, or if you're traveling today or tomorrow, that you get home safely and get back to your regular routine. Let's get into this. rwcoolins.com. That's the website. You can go there, get all the information you want, all the information you need. All the links are there for all social media platforms. Eventually, we will be going all strictly YouTube. So we won't be going on Facebook anymore. So I will make that announcement as we get a little closer. So if you haven't subscribed to the YouTube channel, subscribe, RW Coolins on YouTube. Subscribe, follow, click the link, follow the link. Do what you do when you do what you do. And we'll get into that a little later. Brian Hoodie, morning, sir. Appreciate your support. Renee Ambush, hey, cuz, appreciate your support. Good morning. So, as I was saying, we're going to go to YouTube, eventually, probably after the first of the year, but we'll talk about that as we go. I'll put some information out on that. But if you haven't already subscribed, go ahead and subscribe. Every week, good morning, sis. Happy Thanksgiving. Appreciate it. And Mr. Burns, Gary Burns, good morning, bro. Good morning. Appreciate the support, man. Appreciate the support. So, as I was mentioning, I lost my train of thought, y'all. Happy Thanksgiving to everybody. Hope your Thanksgiving was good and everything. I'm going to get these formalities out of the way. We're also broadcast live on Facebook and YouTube this morning. Also, you can download the show after the fact audio, Spreaker.com or Apple iTunes, whichever one you prefer, you can find it there. Lady Michelle, appreciate the support. Good morning. So, man, y'all got me. I'm getting tongue-tied now. Call in number 844-904-2665. That's 844-904-2665. No matter what the situation is, let your voice be heard. All we ask, if you call in, say what you mean what you say. We come in as friends, we leave as friends. No comment, no opinion is wrong. We discuss it. We come in as friends, we leave as friends. We might get some people jump on you about a comment in the comments section or whatever, but don't take it personal. This is your opinion. That's their opinion. That's how we do things. All I say is my opinion. That's what we do here on the Speak On the Show. So let's continue doing what we do when we do what we do. Michelle Long, good morning. Appreciate the support. Now, as I was saying, for Thanksgiving, hopefully everyone had a wonderful Thanksgiving. You got all your food in and got to visit with folks that you haven't seen in a while. Or if you got out to travel or do whatever you got to do, hopefully everybody's returned safely. No drama, none of that kind of stuff. Because, holidays is about being together in the mind, body, and soul. I'm going to touch on some of that today, but we'll get into that when we get there. But I had to be transparent for a minute. Raymond Hunter, good morning. Appreciate the support, bro. I had to be transparent for a minute because I was torn. I was torn about doing a show today because we're coming off Thanksgiving. We're coming off our high, being around family and being able to eat and what we want and celebrating each other and doing all those type things. but there's a lot of drama going on in the world that we need to discuss. Big Al, appreciate the support, bro. Appreciate the support. But there's a lot of things going on in the world that I think we need to discuss, and I don't want to damper. Let me just say, I don't want to damper the celebration we had for Thanksgiving or anything like that with the news I'm going to talk about or the things I'm going to talk about, because, you know, sometimes I can get into these things and sometimes they get a little edgy. But you know, I think it's something that needs to be said, needs to be done. You don't stop the news because of holiday. So I'm not going to stop what I'm doing because of the holiday. And hopefully by the time we get done with the end of the show, once I put the mind, body, and soul in there, we'll get back to what we do on a regular basis as far as celebrating throughout this weekend and get back to our regular scheduled program on Monday morning. But let's go ahead and get into this. Accountable. Now, I call this show today Accountable. There's some things I'm going to touch on about accountable and accountability. And I think there's some misnomers, misunderstandings as far as when we talk about accountable, because people want to be, people always say they want to be held accountable, but sometimes we don't. Let's just be real. We want to be held accountable, and we think an apology covers everything that we may have done to hold ourselves accountable, but that's not always true. Leslie Ambush, good morning, cuz. Good morning. Appreciate the support. That's not always true. So let me give you a definition of accountable before we get into a couple of these subjects. Accountable, subject to giving an account, answerable, capable if being explained, explainable. And that's a basic definition of accountable, but let's get into this here. Accountability. Accountable is the root. Accountability is the other part of it. Accountability, the quality or state of being accountable, an obligation or willingness to accept responsibility or to account for one's actions. Let me read that again. Accountability, an obligation or willingness to accept responsibility or to account for one's actions. Synonyms to this are responsible, answerable, amenable, and liable. Reasonable, answerable, amenable, liable. Now, a lot of us are accountable for our actions. Maybe not in the beginning, maybe not when it first happens, but as we sit back and we realize what harm we may have done to somebody or what actions we've done that may have impacted someone, we do hold ourselves accountable with sometimes. And sometimes we feel that our apology excludes everything from our accountability. Not always true. Because the thing is, you can apologize, but it's not whether you apologize, it's whether the person chooses to accept your apology. However, and we always heard this, if you choose to apologize, it's not what you said, it's whether they choose to accept it. But on your end, you are holding yourself accountable in most cases by apologizing. Some will agree, some won't. But let me just start off with this here. We've seen a lot of things going on in the news, in our political system, where there's no accountability being held to those folks. Now, I was reading something the other day when they talk about qualified immunity, and I think we talked about this on the show. Qualified immunity is when government personnel, police officers, those people, qualified immunity gives them the immunity of if they do something, that there's no civil action brought against them in their line of when they're working or doing what they're doing. Case in point, police officers, if they do something, you can't bring a civil suit or anything like that. That's qualified immunity, which is one of the sticking points in the George Floyd Policing Act. So just keep that in mind, bear that in mind. And that's one of the main points that the police don't want to go through, because then police officers who do what they're not supposed to do or outside of the jurisdiction of what they're supposed to do can be held civilly liable for what they did to an individual. James Battle, good morning, bro. Appreciate you. Faye Jackson, good morning, sir. Pray all is well. Yes, sir. All is well on this end, bro. Hopefully you and your family are well as well. Appreciate it. So as I was saying, accountability, that's where we're at today. So yesterday I was perusing through the internet, and I seen an individual. Now, I'm not going to say, off the top who they are, what they stand for, but this individual came up with some, how they say, cacamamie, some wild story about a confrontation with somebody. And then we found out that it never happened. This person said that they were in an elevator. There was a security guard running towards the elevator, and the elevator doors were closing. And at the time when the door was closing, it's like, what's he running up here for? Why is he running? And then when the door closed, she said she happened to look over, and there was another individual in the elevator that she is not too fond of. And this was her story. And to come to find out later on, and then she said that the person was in there and they said, oh, she doesn't have a backpack, so she's not a threat. Being that the individual is Muslim, that's her religion is Muslim. And we're talking about Ilhan Omar. And the person that put this story out there was Lauren Boebert, who's a Republican. Now, this is from the Republican playbook as far as the Islamophobic aspect. But what she did was she told this story, and watch this now because we're going to get into this a little later. She told this story and somebody videoed it. She told this story and someone videoed it. Now, if without the video, would we have known this was ever said? James Battle, she needs to be kicked out of Congress. Yes, I'm going to get to that. She's a Republican from the state of Colorado. And this is what she said. And it says, yesterday, a clip of Representative Lauren Boebert went viral on Twitter in the video taken at a recent campaign event. Boebert told an anecdote about running into Representative Ilhan Omar in an elevator at the Capitol. Boebert claimed that a nervous police officer raced up to them, at which point she said, well, she doesn't have a backpack. We should be fine. Boebert was suggesting that because Omar is Muslim, she might be trying to place an explosive device in the building. Now, I want you to think about this, the setting. Let's think about the setting of where she's saying this happened. This supposedly happened in the Capitol. This is one of the people, along with, and I can't remember her name, the person from Georgia, but this is one of the people that the reason why they put the metal detectors in the Capitol, because she wanted to carry her gun on Capitol grounds. But she made up this story, told it, and somebody recorded it in front of an audience. And there was some claps and applause for what she said when she said that she didn't have a backpack and all this kind of stuff. But then she also said this. Boebert claimed that she and Omar rode the elevator, and she doubled down by looking at the Democratic Congresswoman and saying, oh, look, the Jihad Squad. Oh, look, the Jihad Squad decided to show up to work today. And the bigots in the crowd responded with glee and applause. The bigots in the crowd responded with glee and applause. Now, and then she came back and said, don't worry, it's just her staffers on Twitter that talk for her. She's not tough in person. That's what she said. She's not tough in person. These are the people that have been elected to the Congress. These type of people. And they feel comfortable. They feel privileged to be able to say what they want, when they want, how they want, whether it's recorded or not, because there's no consequences. There's no accountability held to them when they do these type of things. Now, Representative Ilhan Omar came back and said, fact, this buffoon looks down when she sees me at the Capitol. This whole story is made up. Sad she thinks bigotry gets her clout. Anti-Muslim bigotry isn't funny and shouldn't be normalized. Congress can't be a place where hateful and dangerous Muslim tropes get no condemnation. Now, this was all off of a video that somebody recorded where she felt comfortable saying this in front of a group of people who voted for her, more than likely, and have the same feelings about Muslims. And let me change that. Not Muslims, people who practice the Muslim religion. I'm going to say this. This is all residual. This is all residual from the former president. These people feel that they can say what they want, how they want, to who they want, because there's no accountability. And then we sit back and we see this and we wonder why things are the way they are. And I'll say this, and I'm going off a little bit, but I'll get back to this in a minute. I was having a discussion with my wife the other day. And I said something, and you hear me say it on here all the time about allies. Are you an ally? Are you an ally for what's going on? Are you an ally for the movement? Are you an ally for the justice reform, the police reform? Are you an ally to the cause? And in this discussion, out of the blue, I just said, are you an ally or are you a lie? Are you an ally or are you a lie? And we both started laughing because the correspondence is that is either you're an ally or you're a lie about whether you support the cause. And you hear me say ally a lot. And that's not to separate black, white, or whatever. Are you an ally to the cause? Doesn't matter your color. Doesn't matter where you come from. Doesn't matter your background. Are you an ally to the cause? Are you an ally to fighting against this ignorance that this congresswoman felt she could freely say with no accountability? See, these are the things that we get caught up in where people just go and they punch the poll because it says R or D. Republican or Democrat. They never do the background. They never look at the things that they've done in their past or what they've been accountable for or any of that kind of stuff, because you can't tell me that now that she's a congresswoman that she's comfortable saying this if she wasn't comfortable saying it before. There's no way. The thing is, now she has a bigger audience. She has a bigger microphone. And I'm going to take it away from a microphone and say a megaphone to be able to throw out this vitriol against anything and everything that she and her supporters don't agree with. Are you an ally or are you a lie when you say what you support and what you don't support? But then in the meantime, after this video came out and everything, she wanted to do damage. She wanted to do damage control. She said, I apologize to anyone in the Muslim community I offended with my comment about Representative Omar. I have reached out to her office to speak with her directly. There are plenty of policy differences to focus on without this unnecessary distraction. I want you to key in on that word distraction. Let me read it again. I apologize to anyone in the Muslim community. I offend anyone in the Muslim community I offended with my comment about Representative Omar. I have reached out to her office to speak with her directly. There are plenty of policy differences to focus on without this unnecessary distraction. So you went from making this comment against Muslims, the jihad squad, and all these different things. And now that it's been put out there, now that it's on video, now it's been played all over the media and everything like this, you feel that it's an unnecessary distraction. Is it? Is it a distraction, or is it the fact that your colors or your true colors have been exposed to the masses? I mean, we already knew who you were, what you were about, but this just takes it to another level as far as how you truly feel. See, these apologies after the fact are because they're worried about being held accountable for what they say. It's not a genuine apology. It's an apology because accountability will soon be had in most cases. Let's go to Raymond Hunter. We all sat back under Obama as extreme fringe groups emerged. They became more galvanized asunder as under Trump. We thought the U.S. would return to moderate rule. Yeah. You know, Raymond Hunter, I agree. But let me add this on to that. We thought the U.S. would return to moderate rule. The thing is, when we talk about moderate rule, the only thing that I think would have been different and has been different is under the Obama administration, when he was in for those 8 years, you notice that people were freely saying how they felt about President Obama and his wife, Michelle Obama, the first lady, who you've never heard that much vitriol thrown towards any first lady in the history of this country. All because not what she does, not who she is, but how she looks. And then we have this that comes up now, and all this is just that snowball effect of everything that has been going on forever, that they feel they can say what they want, when they want, to who they want, how they want, with no accountability. And my biggest problem with this is, and I'll go back again, those who sat back and continue to sit back and call themselves an ally when you're a bold-faced ally. Because if you sit back and laugh, resend, retweet, any of these things that are disparaging about an individual, about their color, about their religion, about anything that goes on with them, just because you don't like them or you don't agree with them, but you don't take it to the point of policy or what you don't agree with them on, you take it to the point of being a personal attack, then you're a lie, not an ally. I see so many things on my timeline where people repost and retweet all these different things that they see and they hear. And what they don't realize is if you're a normal, everyday human being that can read between the lines of what you're truly trying to say, just because you retweeted or reposted it does not mean you don't feel the same way. Because if you took the time to read it and you took the time to hit, repost or resend or whatever you do, that says everything about you that I need to know. See, you can't hide behind the fact that, oh, I didn't know it meant that. You knew what it meant when you clicked send. Just like the comments, you knew what you meant when you said what you said. But because there's been no accountability to those people at this level, the people at this level feel free to do and say what they want. Because if they're not held accountable, who's going to hold me accountable? The snowball effect. It just keeps on going and going and going. You just had, I think it's Paul Gosar, Republican, that they stripped him of all his committee representation. They censured him as far as what he said. And I don't remember exactly what he said because it was so ignorant. I seen it and let it go. Because what happens is this: we get so accustomed and so comfortable to hearing it from certain people that we just look at it and say, that's just who he is. We knew who he was. But that's where I think we need to change our mindset. We need to change our mindset to the point of don't continue to accept them for who we know they are. We need to continue to call them out for who we know they are and who their followers are and who has the same mindset that they have. Because if we continue just saying, that's just who he is, come on now. We don't do that for people who will go out here and kill people, murderers. We don't do it for rape victims. People who rape people. We don't do it for people who go out here and continue to drunk drive and kill people. We don't give them the benefit of the doubt that that's just who they are. We want them held accountable. And until we start holding the people accountable who follow these folks who think there's no accountability, then we're going to continue with this snowball effect, which is why I go back to the point of allies versus ally. And the thing is, and I've said this many times as well, we can't continue to expect people that look like me to be the ones to stop this. We can't continue to expect the people that look like Representative Ilhan Omar because of her religion to be the ones to stop this. She is practicing her religion in this United States of America that we call has freedom to do so. But there's no accountability for those who have a different opinion and want to put this negative tone on someone who chooses to practice the Muslim religion. If you really think about it, ask yourself, why is Louis Farrakhan so vilified by mainstream media and by those other powers supposedly that be? Think about it. Is it his religion or is it what he speaks? See, there's a fear amongst some folks of when you speak truth, it raises a certain amount of fear. Now, I don't have no problem admitting to anybody. I listen to Louis Farrakhan on occasion. Sometimes I'll flick through. I'll just go to hear what he had to say about certain subjects, what his sermon was about. But because I listen to him, that doesn't make me a radical Islamist like they try to label him. Doesn't make me anti-Semitic like they try to label him. Because if you're going to do that with Louis Farrakhan, then you need to start doing the same thing about Donald Trump. If you're going to put a label on anybody who listens to Louis Farrakhan and what his message may be, then you need to put the same label on the Donald Trumps, the Paul Gosars, the Lauren Boebert, all the people who have these negative connotations. You need to be fair. You need to do the same thing. You need to stop straddling the fence of, well, it's Louis Farrakhan. It's that Muslim in him. No, it's that fear in you. It's the fear in you. Raymond Hunter, he told his view of the truth and became unforgivably black in the eyes of the mainstream. There it is. But we vilify him. They vilified Malcolm X. They vilified Martin Luther King Jr. Why? Oh, let me add one more on to that. I know I'm going off all over the place today. The 1619 Project. I just received this book the other day because I need to do my research and my reading. But they vilified Nicole Hannah Jones because of the 1619 Project. Why? See, when you speak truth, they vilify you. She wrote a book about the first slaves that came to this country. And I won't say came, but were brought to this country and filled in the gaps of history and everything that's gone on since 1619. And she's been vilified. See, that's the difference in speaking truth and then holding people accountable for untruths. Now, what's going to happen to Boebert? I have no clue. And then shortly after she, said her apology, Representative Omar tweeted that calling her a suicide bomber is no laughing matter. She called on House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy and Speaker of the House Nancy Pelosi to take appropriate action because of normalizing this bigotry endangers her life and the lives of all Muslims. Then we had the other one. Oh, there's her name. Marjorie Taylor Greene. And I'm segueing, y'all, so y'all bear with me. Marjorie Taylor Greene. This one introduced a bill, H.R. 6070, described as a law, watch this now, to award a Congressional Medal of Honor, a Congressional Gold Medal to Kyle Rittenhouse. Let me repeat that because I don't think y'all heard me. Let me say that one more time. Representative Greene, Marjorie Taylor Greene, introduced a House bill, H.R. 6070. You can look it up if you want. Described as a law to award a Congressional Gold Medal to Kyle Rittenhouse. And her statement was, who protected the community of Kenosha, Wisconsin during a Black Lives Matter riot. Not protest, a Black Lives Matter riot on August 25th, 2020. Let that marinate for a minute. You had someone who they say saved Wisconsin, Kenosha, Wisconsin from the riots or the Black Lives Matter. But what's caught up in this and what's not caught up in this, she brings up the Black Lives Matter protest at the time. That you had three, let me tell you now, and I'm going to call them allies at this time, that he shot. Two, he shot to death. One, damn near blew his arm off. We've talked about this. We all know the facts. But they want to give him a Congressional Gold Medal for killing two people and wounding one because they say he protected the community of Kenosha, Wisconsin. This is a congressperson putting this into play. This is nothing more than a move to troll and offend her critics on the left. It's signaled by the fact that there was no text or content outside of its title attached to the announcement of HR 6070's introduction. Now I'm gonna go out on a limb. Now I was in, when I was active duty, and even to this day, you put in packages, you write up an awards package for people you want to be recognized. She put in this supposed to be, bill for him to be recognized for protecting Kenosha, but there's no, no dissertation about what he did, why he's putting up for the award, blah, 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 none of that kind of stuff. She didn't put that in there. James Battle, she voted against the gold medals for the Capitol Police to protect her during the attempted coup on January 6th. Thank you. That was my next one. Thank you, Battle. I appreciate that. So this is the same person, as Mr. Battle just said, that when they tried to give gold medals to the Capitol Police for protecting them, unless they weren't scared because they knew who was coming in and they knew what they looked like. But that's another conversation for another day. But she told them that she voted against the gold medals for the police officers, the Capitol Police officers protected the congressmen and the senators during the insurrection. But she wrote this for Kyle Rittenhouse. And these are the type of people that we're putting in office to legislate, create bills, laws for this country. You do the math. You figure it out. Help me. Accountable. When will people be held accountable? I'm trying to get this understanding. And this one hurt me when we talk about accountable. Kevin Strickland, 62 years old. Now I've talked about the disparities in people being exonerated for crimes they haven't committed. And the visuals aren't pretty because everyone we see being exonerated looks like me. And we ask the question, as we talked last week about the justice system and justice reform and all these type things. But this 62-year-old man, Kevin Strickland, was exonerated Tuesday morning after serving decades at Western Missouri Correctional Center in Cameron, Missouri. Strickland was convicted in 1979 of 1 count of capital murder and 2 counts of second-degree murder in a triple homicide. He received a 50-year life sentence without the possibility of parole for a crime that over the years he maintained he had not been involved in. Sound familiar? 43 years. 43 years behind bars without the possibility of parole. And they took allies to get into the system, to get the evidence that was never, presented and all those type things for him to be released this week. The 2 assailants that this woman identified, her name, she was part of it. She got shot, Cynthia Douglas, who died in 2015, testified in 1978 that Strickland was at the scene of the triple murder. Now, I want you to listen to this. Douglas sustained a shotgun injury and told police that Vincent Bell and Keon Atkins, the 2 that were convicted also, were 2 of the perpetrators, but she did not identify Mr. Strickland, who she knew as being at the scene. Well, she knew him, but she didn't know. Wait a minute, let me go back. She did not identify Strickland, who she knew, as being at the scene until a day later. So a day after everything happened, she says Mr. Strickland was at the scene, but she didn't see him at the time when everything happened. After it was suggested to her, Strickland's hair matched Douglas's description of the shooter. So his hairstyle matched the description of the shooter. Because she already knew who Mr. Strickland was, she identified him. Because his hairstyle fit the description of the shooter. Douglas claimed her initial failure to identify him was due to use of cognac and marijuana at that time. But for the past 30 years, she has been saying that she made a mistake and falsely identified Mr. Strickland. Douglas made efforts to free Strickland through the Midwest Innocence Project. So she made efforts to reverse what she knew was a lie. But she was never held accountable, even to this day. Now, she died in 2015. She testified in 1978 that this was him, and for 30 years, she did whatever she could to try to get him off. But she lied from the start. Now, here's the part that I don't think the reporting on it really jumped out at me. Now, Mr. Strickland got 50 years without parole, without the possibility of parole. Let's talk about the other two gentlemen. The two assailants she identified at the scene both pleaded guilty to second-degree murder, and each ended up serving about 10 years in prison for the crime. So the two people that actually committed the crime, that she identified that they did the crime, pleaded guilty, served 10 years each. Mr. Strickland, who stood by the fact that he was not there, he did not do this for all those years and years he's been fighting, after serving 43 of the 50 years, he's now being released. Let that marinate for a minute. The two people that committed the crime did 10 years each. The one person that had nothing to do with the crime and was just pointed out because of his hairstyle did 43 years behind bars for something he didn't do, something he wasn't even associated with, all because she knew him. And because they said his hairstyle matched the hairstyle of one of the perpetrators, he was found guilty. Mr. Strickland's in a wheelchair right now. Didn't say what he was in the wheelchair for or anything. But he said there was two things he wanted to do as soon as he got out. He wanted to visit his mother's grave, who passed away in August, and he wants to see the ocean. And I heard on the interview when I was listening to it that he wanted to go see the ocean, and the woman asked him, well, why are you so fascinated with it? He said, but when I was a young man, I used to swim all the time. I was a great swimmer. See, these are those misconceptions about who we are as a people. This man said he used to swim as a young man. See, people thought he just wanted to go see the ocean because he wanted to see it. The man said he's going to swim in that ocean. I say that because just those simple things that we take for granted. Someone, somewhere, right now, has had his freedom snatched away from him, not because of something he did, because of something they accused him of doing, and they didn't have the resources or the people to be able to prove his innocence. And there's women in the same situation. Let's be honest. I just seen a story the other day, and this goes into the accountability as well. Young woman, everybody remember Centoya Brown, the one who killed her kidnapper, sexual offender that kept her as a sex slave for all those years, and he killed her, and then she got life in prison, and it took everybody and anything to get her off. We got another one, same case, same story. Being abused for years and years and years and years, and now she's killed the man, and she's being charged with murder, but there's no accountability for the person who caused her to commit the murder. But in the Kyle Rittenhouse case, in Ahmaud Arbery, which we can already talk about, they wanted to use self-defense about what they did, but they don't want to use self-defense in the matter of what Centoya Brown and what this other young lady had to go through to be able to get away from who was victimizing them for all those years. Think about that. Raymond Hunter, if they can take your freedom so easily, do you really have it? I heard a comedian say this one time. He said, if you think you got freedom, you must be dumb, because, free dumb. Free dumb. That's the way he described it. Mr. Strickland, they started a GoFundMe account because here's the thing. In Missouri, and I didn't write this down, but in Missouri, now mind you, Mr. Strickland has served the longest wrongful imprisonment in Missouri history and one of the longest in the nation. In Missouri history and in the history of this nation, he served the longest time. He's one of the longest, but in Missouri, he is the longest. So they set up a GoFundMe for Mr. Strickland because in Missouri, and I don't want to say it wrong because I read it, but I didn't write it down. But if you're wrongly convicted, there's a if you're found not guilty after they do by some way of DNA, they pay you a certain amount of money for each year you served. Well, because Mr. Strickland was not released because of DNA evidence, he gets nothing. Not a dime. After serving 43 years in prison, he gets nothing. So what somebody did, I think the Missouri, the people that were defending him, the Missouri Project, I can't remember the name of it. I'm sorry, y'all. But they started a GoFundMe. Oh, the Midwest Innocence Project created a GoFundMe page for Mr. Strickland to restart his life since he doesn't qualify for help from the state of Missouri. Here it is. In Missouri, only those exonerated through DNA testing are eligible for a $50 per day of post-conviction confinement, according to the Innocence Project. That was not the case for Strickland. $50 for post-conviction confinement. Anyway, so up to today, they started this fund. The fund was created over the summer with a goal of raising $7,500, which the fund says would amount to approximately $175 for every year Strickland spent wrongly convicted. $175 for every year you were convicted. Wow. The good news is Mr. Strickland, through this GoFundMe account, has received over $1 million. Mr. Strickland has received over $1 million from people donating to his cause, where he can go out here and enjoy his freedom. Money doesn't buy back the time, but the money will make it comfortable for him to be able to transition and do the things that he wants to do that he hasn't been able to do for the last 43 years. But remember, this is all coming from a GoFundMe page, not from the state who unnecessarily incarcerated him for 43 years. These are upstanding citizens who feel that they want to contribute to Mr. Strickland, not the government, not the state, and not the people who convicted him at the time. So let's talk about that for a minute. Where are we talked about Miss Douglas, who wrongly accused him or wrongly identified him. But when are we going to start holding the police officers who arrested him? When are we going to start holding the prosecutors who prosecuted the case? When are we going to start holding the judge who sentenced? When are we going to start holding the people accountable in the system that charge people like Mr. Strickland to 40, 50 years of jail for something he did not do? We always talk about accountability as individuals, but then there's these people that are in the system that we never get the accountability from that should be held accountable. Brown Hoodie, they violated his federal civil rights and a suit is in order. Should be. It should be. But there's no accountability for the people who started the case from the beginning. Who made the plea deal with those two people that only got 10 years and he gets 50? Who were they? Who were they? Are they, and then the question you have to ask, did they only get 10 years each because they pointed the finger at Mr. Strickland as well? Who was not there? Was that the plea deal? Was that part of the plea deal? See, we don't hear all that. But you have a man incarcerated for 43 years, looking at 50 years without possibility of parole. So if this wouldn't have came through, 7 more years, he would have sat behind bars before he would have been released. Attorney Benjamin Crump. Let's talk about Attorney Benjamin Crump. This is what he said after the Ahmaud Arbery killing, murder that the 3 people found guilty of. He said, this case, by all accounts, should have been opened and closed. The violent stalking and lynching of Ahmaud Arbery was documented for video for the world to witness. But yet, because of deep cracks, flaws, and biases in our systems, we were left to wonder if we would ever see justice. Today certainly indicates progress, but we are nowhere close to the finish line. Now, that came from Benjamin Crump, civil rights attorney, who's been involved in all these cases that have been going on that we've seen. But I have a question, and we all know what happened. They were all found guilty. One on all charges, one on 8 of the charges, and the other one on 6 of 9. All 9, 8 of 9, 6 of 9. But something that jumped out at me the other day, I heard somebody discussing, it really made me go back and do some research. These men weren't convicted because of what they did. Let's just be real here. These men were not convicted for what they did to Ahmaud Arbery. They were convicted because there was video of what they did to Ahmaud Arbery. When is it that we have to have video when it's people that look like us are being killed in the streets for them to come up with a guilty verdict? George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, Rodney King. That's just 4 off the top of my head that we know there was video evidence of what they did to these individuals when they lied and said they did something, but then came back around, and once we seen the video, realized that the perpetrators were lying on the victims. And then I want you to think about, what if we had video evidence of Trayvon Martin, Michael Brown in St. Louis, Mr. Kevin Strickland, who I just talked about, Muhammad Aziz and Khalil Islam, who they say and were wrongly convicted of killing Malcolm X. What if we had video of those cases? How different would they have turned out? See, now we've gotten to the point where we have to have video evidence in order for people to get justice. Why? Is our word not good enough for what happened to us? Is our word not good enough of what someone has done to us when it's the law or vigilantes that look a certain way decide to take the law into their own hands? We have to have video evidence that someone has done an injustice to me because they felt I was somewhere where I shouldn't have been, or they chose to put me in a chokehold and put a knee on my neck because I chose to, or accused of passing a $20 bill. I have to have video evidence because you had a search warrant to come in my house and you came in blazing saddles, and because my boyfriend shot back and shot one of you, now we're guilty of what you did? Or because I'm speeding and you pull me over and it takes 20 of you to beat me with a baton, with batons, police batons, brutally beat me. And because there's no video at the time, I'm guilty. But when the video comes out, the accountability starts to a certain extent. Why? It's crazy. James Battle, the original DA in the Arbery case, was never going to bring this case. Glad she was indicted as well. Had it not been for the video, none of this would have happened. Exactly. And they need to throw the book at that former DA because she was friends with the father, McMichaels. Used to work for him or her or whatever they used to do together. They used to work together or something. But she was never going to bring charges. And without this video, no charges would have ever been brought. None. Raymond Hunter, video helps with the adage, it's not what you know, but what you can prove. You know, I talk about the video because it really makes you think. You know, they always say what happens behind what happens in the dark will always come to light. Nah, that's not always true. We've seen it too many times. If that was the case, Mr. Strickland wouldn't have served 43 years in jail for something he didn't do. Now, the other side of that is, even when you have video, they can flip it to make it seem as though what you're seeing is not real. The Kyle Rittenhouse trial. They say he was threatened before he chose to shoot. The threat was white men feeling that they could openly carry on the streets of Kenosha, Wisconsin, not because they were trying to protect something, but because who chose to do a protest about what happened to Jacob Blake. Let's go down to the bare bones of what this was about. It's cut and dry. Without video, those three men in Brunswick, Georgia, would be free today. Without video, Derek Chauvin would be free today. Without video, the police that killed Breonna Taylor would not be working to be held accountable for what they did. Let's see how that works out. Without video, Rodney King would have just been a drugged up, drunk driver that got out of hand. All this is without video. Not because the justice system works. Because of video. The cameras worked. And then you hear the stories about police when they go in and do something, and all of a sudden their body cams aren't on. They've turned them off before they went to do what they were going to do, because they knew they were wrong before they even started. But the body cams were supposed to be a saving grace for certain people in certain neighborhoods, in certain settings. But they still had the ability to shut them off. Dash cams in the police cars. They sit on the dash where they can see, but most of the time they take you out of view where you can't see. Video, the gift and the curse. Accountability. I'm gonna go out on a limb and say most of us hold ourselves accountable for the things we do. A lot of us hold ourselves accountable for the things we've done. If you take a real good look around you, if you really think hard, you can probably come up with some names of people that you know that have never had any inkling of being held accountable for what they've done, what they're going to do, who they've done it to, or any of that. And then process it a little bit more and think about who they are, where they come from, what they look like, and how they feel about certain people. Raymond Hunter, if you're black, by all means, try to stay out of the U.S. justice system. It is designed to be detrimental for us. You have people right now. Thank you, Raymond Hunter. You got people right now that did a crime probably when they was like 17, 18 years old. They're probably like 50, 55 years old right now, that are still trying to get those records expunged for some minor infringement they may have done when they 18, 19 years old, and they were pushed, sentenced to the full extent of the law at the time. And now they're trying to get that sentence expunged after all this time, and it's just a revolving door. And they won't get it expunged because nobody wants to take the time to do what they should do to help this person clear their record, because the person they were at 17, 18 is not the person they are at 55. But nobody's helping them get it taken care of. However, as I mentioned last week, we had a young man who raped 4 young ladies, who got 8 years probation, no jail time for the 4 rapes, just probation. And once his probation is done, I guarantee you, and you can mark my word on this, anything about that probation, other than the fact that he's supposed to, and they still haven't come up with this yet, they haven't finalized it, he's supposed to register as what level they're going to do as a sex offender. You will never hear another word about this young man after 8 years. I won't give you 8 months, but it could go off the books in 8 years. Watch what I tell you. It's just the way it goes. Just the way it goes. Let's go and get in this mind, body, and soul. You know, today I was going to change up. As I mentioned in the beginning, I didn't want to get into this doom and gloom and accountability and everything. I just wanted to go straight to the mind, body, and soul today. But I felt that it was some things I needed to touch on and give y'all some information about, because, you know, it's one of those things where you want to provide the information. You want people to process the information. You don't hope it doesn't ruin somebody's day, but the facts are the facts and the truth is the truth. And sometimes the truth hurts. It may change your mindset for a little while, but we get back to normal. It'll still be there because you have the knowledge of what went on, but it's not going to consume you about what your life is all about. So that's why I want to provide that. But today on the Mind, Body, and Soul, when the year 2021, we're on the countdown for the get down. We got about 30-something days left before the new year of 2022. This year has been about self-help, self-care, helping somebody, doing the right thing, no matter what. One day at a time, one day at a time. And today's Mind, Body, and Soul is a quote that I found that corresponds with Thanksgiving. Because Thanksgiving comes around once a year. And we all find time to find something to be thankful for on that day. But this quote is going to re-emphasize the fact of what we need to do on a daily basis. So here we go. And the quote says, every day, take a few minutes to sit quietly and just be thankful. Every day, take a few minutes to just sit quietly and just be thankful. Now, I bring that up because, you know, as I mentioned, Thursday was Thanksgiving. We all had a good time. We all had something to be thankful for. We recognized, we talked about it, we prayed about it, and then we ate about it. Let's just be real. We ate about it. But I think we need to get back into the practice of being thankful every day. And I mentioned last week when I read the words to the song Still Here, you're still here for a reason. You still have a purpose. God is still working with you to do what he wants you to do and knows you can do on this earth during this time. But I think sometimes we get so caught up in our everyday workings and everything that's going on around us that we forget to be thankful. Not just for the things that we have, but for waking up in the morning, the things that will be coming bestowed upon us. Thankful for the fact that we get to see another day and enjoy the next day with our family and our friends. You know, taking that one day out a year is great. Don't get me wrong. It's good to be able to come together as family and break bread and watch football and everything like that on that day, which they're changing, excuse me for this caveat, from Thanksgiving to Indigenous Peoples Day, but y'all catch up if you need to. But every day we need to take that few minutes to sit quietly and just be thankful. When you wake up in the morning and you jump up out that bed because you either set your clock too late to get up or you just decide to lay in or whatever, each morning when you wake up, just find some time just to be thankful. Talk to the man upstairs. Let him know how you feel. Let him know that you're thankful. And that caveats to the point of let your people that are in your life know how thankful you are for them. See, that's one of the things that we don't do enough is thank those who make us better. Thank those who encourage us to be better. And thank those who are around us that are better, that they make us push to be even better. See, we all have many, many things to be thankful for. Some people may be thankful for the new job. Some people may be thankful for the new opportunity. Some people may be thankful for the new spouse or the new, the new relationship or the new car and all the material things that you may think about, your new house, what you're going to get for Christmas, all those thankful moments that you should be thankful for. But I think we get caught up in the fact of not thanking those who make us better, those that push us to become better. Hell, sometimes we don't even thank those who made it possible for us to be here in this world. Appreciate you, Mom. You see what I'm saying? We got to get out of the habit of just waiting for one day to recognize the things that we're thankful for and be thankful every day. And as hard as it is for us to say this, for me to say this right now, but someone didn't wake up on Thanksgiving morning to be able to tell his family or her family how thankful they were for them. See, we always talk about how tomorrow's not given. But a simple thank you or how I'm thankful for you can go a long way. Can go a long way. Appreciate those that are in your life. Be thankful for those that are in your life. And be thankful for those negative people that are in your life. Let's just be honest here. Be thankful for those negative people in your life, because here's the thing. No matter how much positivity you may have in your life, you need that negativity to make you realize how positive things truly are. Not to take it as a fact that the person complains all the time. Just look at your life. And even that negative person, tell them you're thankful. Because what you'll see is maybe that thankfulness that you have for them will eventually rub off on them and cause them to start being thankful for what they have and stop always being negative about what you don't. That's where it starts. That's where we're at. That's what we need to do. We need to get to the point of understanding that being thankful, there's nothing wrong with that. Telling someone in your life that you're thankful for them don't make you soft. Being thankful lets those people know that you appreciate them, that you love them, and that you're glad that God has them in your life. Because we all going to leave here one day. Let's just be real about it, as real as can be. We all going to leave here one day. But don't leave here with the people that are around you not knowing how thankful you were or that you are to have them in your life. Should be no hesitation when you tell somebody how thankful you are for them. If you love them, let them know. If you appreciate them, let them know. There ain't no do-overs. We get this ride one time. One time. Make the best of it. And not only for you, for everybody around you. That's what it's all about. Learn to be thankful every day, not just today, and not just one day. Let's go ahead and wrap this up. I appreciate everybody tuning in this morning. And let me tell y'all, I'm thankful. I'm thankful for all you that listen in. I'm thankful for all you that share. I'm thankful for all you that are in my lives, whether near or far. Because one thing I know is that for me, and this is just me, for me to know that I'm doing something that has some type of impact and it's affecting people somehow, some way, makes me thankful. Makes me thankful that I get to wake up every morning. Makes me thankful that I get to go out and just sit in the backyard and look at the goodness of God. And I'll put it in these terms and then I'm going to leave it alone. When I watched the interview the other day when I watched the interview the other day of Mr. Strickland, when I first heard the story, I was angry. I was pissed that this man served 43 years in jail for something he did not do. But then when I seen his interview, and he talked about the fact that he had two places he wanted to go. One was to visit his mother's grave because she passed in August, as I mentioned. But the other one, and he mentioned that if they did not stop, make that first stop, he was going to get out and crawl on his hands and knees to go to his mother's grave. That was number one. The second part of it was when he talked about the ocean. He said he wanted to go to the ocean. He wanted to put his feet in the ocean. He's never seen the ocean. He talked about him, being a swimmer when he was younger and things like that. But the one thing that jumped out at me was when he said, I want to see the ocean because think about how good God is that he put all this water on this earth. Think about how great he is to be able to have done this. See, that's a God-fearing man that understands the greatness of God. And I'm thankful for Mr. Strickland for opening my eyes. Even though through his trials and tribulation and his strife, he was still able to see the goodness of God and say that he wanted to see the ocean for the beauty of what God has put on this earth for us to be able to see and appreciate. I talk about these different stories about injustices and racism and all these type things and everything because these are the things that happen every day that you can't overlook. But while you're not overlooking this, please, and I beg you, please, don't overlook the goodness of God. From the tree to the bird, to the oceans, to the mountains, to the blue sky. Don't take it for granted. No matter what's going on around you, as I mentioned in the mind, body, and soul, take that few minutes to be thankful of the goodness of God and what he provides for us to be able to see outside of the chaos that goes on around us every day. That's what we need to do. Mr. Strickland, I appreciate you. Sorry for what happened to you, but I appreciate you because you're making me look at things a lot differently. And I've been free my whole life. Let that marinate. As I mentioned, I appreciate everybody tuning in. Love yourself, love one another, keep your head up, and most definitely keep your faith in God. I'll see y'all again next week. I love y'all. Be thankful. Be thankful. Be thankful. And I'm out. I love y'all. Peace.